The cop called the crime boss because the woman in the wreckage did not ask for her family. She asked for Cole Maddox before the ambulance came. In Baltimore, rain was crawling down the windshield. Blood was warming Harper Vale's cheek, and the last thing she saw was a motorcycle vanishing into the dark. Most people spend their lives hoping someone will save them. Harper knew better. She called the one man dangerous enough to scare the monsters chasing her. This is not just a story about crime power or forbidden love. It is about what happens when truth becomes a weapon, and the only person standing between you and death is the man everyone else fears. Stay with this story until the end, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. If you're ready, like the video, and let's begin. His name sat in the room like a loaded gun. Harper Vale watched Cole Maddox from the hospital bed, waiting for him to deny it, to laugh, to tell her she had made the kind of mistake exhausted people made after losing too much blood. He did none of those things. He only stood there in the stale white light of Mercy Harbor Medical Center, one hand in the pocket of his black coat, his face carved into that calm, unreadable mask Baltimore had learned to fear. Outside the thin curtain, nurses moved fast. Rubber soles whispered against polished floors. A child cried somewhere down the hall. A monitor beeped behind the next wall in steady, fragile rhythm. Inside the room, the air felt too still. Cole looked at her bandaged forehead, her bruised collarbone, the hospital blanket twisted in her fingers. Then his eyes returned to hers. "Say that again." Harper swallowed. Her mouth tasted like copper and cheap ice chips. "I found your name in the files." "My name," he said. "Not exactly." She looked down, hating how weak her voice sounded. "Not Cole Maddox on a signed contract, not your personal account, nothing that clean. But companies tied to your world, freight contractors, security vendors, port logistics, construction suppliers. Businesses that people in my old line of work learned not to ask about unless they had a lawyer and a death wish." Cole did not move. That was the first thing people misunderstood about dangerous men. They expected explosions, raised voices, fists on tables. Cole Maddox was worse than that. His anger arrived quiet. It pulled all the warmth from a room before anyone saw the blade. "Who sent you the files, I don't know. Who else knows my sister, my old editor?" His jaw shifted once. Harper almost smiled despite the pain in her ribs. 2 years ago, she had told him he had a tell. He had said he did not. He had lied then, too. Cole pulled the chair closer and sat beside her bed. He moved carefully, not gently, but with the kind of control that made every gesture feel chosen. "Start at the beginning." Harper let her head rest back against the pillow. The room tilted a little, then steadied. The doctor had called it a mild concussion, as if mild had any place in a sentence that included a motorcycle aiming itself at her windshield. "The beginning was you." Cole's eyes narrowed. "You asked me for the truth, Harper. That is the truth." The first time Harper Vale saw Cole Maddox, he was not standing in some smoke-filled back room with men begging for mercy. He was sitting by the window of a coffee shop on Charles Street, wearing a charcoal suit that cost more than her rent and looking wildly out of place among students with laptops and mothers with strollers. She had chosen the place because it was public. He had agreed because he knew that did not matter. Harper had arrived 15 minutes early and found him already there. No bodyguards visible, no dramatic entrance. Just a man with dark hair, dark eyes, and the stillness of someone who did not need to check exits because he had memorized them before sitting down. She had been 29, then still young enough to believe the truth could cut through anything if it was sharp enough. Her editor had called her crazy. Her friends had called her reckless. Her sister June had called 3 times that morning and left one message that simply said, "If you get murdered for a magazine profile, I am going to be furious at your funeral." Harper had played it twice in the cab, laughing the first time and not laughing the second. Cole had stood when she reached the table. That surprised her. Men with power often stayed seated so everyone else had to bend toward them. Cole did not. He rose, offered his hand, and looked directly at her. "Miss Vale, Mr. Maddox." His hand had been warm, his grip firm, brief, impersonal. She placed her recorder on the table between them. He glanced at it. "You are either very brave or very bad at risk assessment. Most people who know me say both." That earned her the smallest movement at the corner of his mouth. Not a smile, a suggestion that one existed somewhere far behind the walls. He sat. She sat. The coffee shop kept living around them. Milk steamed, cups clinked. A barista called out someone named Madison. Outside Baltimore, traffic crawled beneath a pale winter sky. Harper looked at the most feared man in the city and asked the question she had come there to ask. "Do you remember the first time someone was afraid of you?" Cole stared at her for a long moment. Most reporters began with allegations. Dates, names, rumors. Harper had done her research, of course. She knew about the clubs, the port routes, the private security firm, the whispered arrangements with unions and contractors. She knew what prosecutors suspected and what they had never proved. But she was not writing about crimes. She was writing about cost. Cole leaned back slightly. "That is your opening question. It is the one that matters. People fear what they do not understand." That was not an answer. "No," he said. It was not. She waited. He watched her wait. It became a test before either of them named it. The coffee went cold. The recorder caught every second of silence. Finally, Cole said, "I was 17. Harper did not look down at her notes. She knew better than to break the thread. "My father owed money to a man who enjoyed making examples. One night he came to our apartment with 2 others. My mother tried to stand between them and my father. I picked up a kitchen knife before I understood I had picked it up. His voice did not change. That was what made the story worse. The man looked at me and laughed. Then he stopped laughing. Harper's chest tightened. What happened?" Cole's gaze held hers. "He left. And after that, my father was still weak. My mother was still tired, and I learned that fear could do what begging could not. That was the first true thing he gave her." Over the next hour, Harper asked him about power, loneliness, loyalty, and the difference between protection and control. Cole answered some questions and dodged others with the elegance of a man who had survived depositions, betrayals, and dinner tables where one wrong word could end a life. He never admitted to a crime. He never had to. The article came out 3 weeks later under the title "The Kingdom of Careful Men." Harper had written him as dangerous because he was, but she had also written him as human, which turned out to be the more dangerous choice. The threats started small. At first she tried to explain them away. A black sedan parked outside her apartment for 2 nights could be coincidence. A call with only breathing on the other end could be some creep with too much time. A source canceling lunch because he had suddenly decided city contracts were not worth discussing could be ordinary fear. Then came the envelope. Not the one with the flash drive. That would come much later. This one arrived at the newsroom in a plain white mailer. Inside was a printed copy of her article. One sentence circled in red. "Cole Maddox has built a life where trust is the one luxury he cannot afford." Below it, someone had written, "Neither can you." Her editor, Ellen Marsh, closed her office door and read the note twice. Ellen was in her 50s with silver hair she wore pinned up and a voice made rough by cigarettes. She claimed she had quit 10 years ago. She had broken stories that cost men elections, pensions, marriages, and once, according to rumor, a yacht. She looked at Harper over the paper. "You tell me right now if Maddox sent this." He did not. You know that how Harper did not have a practical answer, only an instinct. Because he would not need red marker. Ellen did not laugh. That answer is both stupid and probably correct. For 2 weeks, Harper kept working. She told herself fear was part of the job. She had been threatened before. Men who stole public money did not send thank you notes. Men who abused power did not enjoy seeing their names in print. But this felt different. This was not outrage. This was pressure. A man followed her into a grocery store on a Thursday evening. Harper noticed him near the apples first. Gray jacket, baseball cap. Nothing memorable except the way he never actually shopped. She moved to the next aisle. He followed. She turned into the freezer section. He was there again, reflected in the glass doors behind rows of frozen peas. Her pulse climbed. She reached for her phone. Before she could dial, the man passed close enough that his shoulder brushed hers. "You made him look like a man," he whispered. "Next time, write him like a ghost." By the time Harper turned, he was walking away. She stood in the fluorescent light with a basket in one hand and her phone in the other, surrounded by cereal boxes and canned soup, suddenly aware that ordinary places did not protect anyone. That night she packed a bag and stayed at June's place, back when June still lived in Baltimore. Her sister opened the door in sweatpants, took one look at Harper's face, and pulled her inside. "Tell me everything." Harper did. June listened from the kitchen floor with her knees pulled to her chest. She was younger by 6 years, softer in appearance, but not in spirit. Their mother used to say June had a heart like bread and a spine like steel. When Harper finished, June said, "Quit." Harper laughed once. "No, I am not asking as your sister. I am asking as the person who will have to identify your body if this gets worse. That is not fair. No, Harper. Following men like Cole Maddox into the dark and pretending the dark does not follow back is not fair. I did my job." "I know." June's voice broke a little. "That is what scares me." 3 days later, Ellen pulled Harper off a developing story about city development contracts. The official reason was workload balance. The real reason sat between them, ugly and unspoken. Harper fought it. Ellen let her. Then she said, "Being right does not make you bulletproof." Harper resigned a month later. She took a job in communications for a private hospital network. She wrote donor announcements, staff profiles, wellness articles, and public statements carefully designed to say very little in polished language. Her office had a plant a window and no reason for anyone to threaten her in a grocery store. People congratulated her. They said she deserved peace. They said journalism was dying anyway. They said corporate work would be better for her health. Harper smiled and accepted every lie. For 2 years, she built a smaller life. She learned which coffee shop had the shortest line. She bought curtains. She stopped checking her rearview mirror every block. She dated a kind pediatric resident for 3 months and ended it because he talked about buying a house in the suburbs like that was a happy ending she should want. Some nights, she opened old drafts on her laptop and read sentences from unfinished investigations until her chest hurt. Then she closed them and went to bed. The envelope with the flash drive arrived on a Tuesday. Harper found it leaning against her apartment door in Fells Point when she came home from work. Brown paper. No postage, no return address. Her name written in black ink. Harper Vale. Not Ms. Vale, not Harper. A direct address. Her first instinct was to leave it there and call the police. Her second instinct was the one that had once made her good at her job. She took it inside. The apartment was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and rain ticking softly against the fire escape. She placed the envelope on her kitchen table, changed out of her work blazer, washed her hands, and stared at it for 10 full minutes. Then she opened it with a butter knife. Inside was a small flash drive and a folded sheet of paper. Only 4 words. "You missed the story." Harper sat down. The room seemed to pull away from her. She did not plug the drive into her work laptop. She was not that careless. She used an old machine wiped clean, disconnected from her personal accounts, the kind she had kept from her reporting days because some part of her had never fully believed she was done. The drive opened to folders: Hale, Harbor Line, safety audits, school repairs, bridge inspections, transit upgrades, accounts, photos, emails. At first, the information looked like noise. Contracts, payment schedules, scanned memos, invoices with project codes, city procurement language designed to make theft sound like paperwork. Then Harper saw a familiar pattern. A Public Works Committee approved emergency funds for bridge reinforcement near East Baltimore. 2 weeks later, Harbor Line Urban Renewal billed the city for consulting and structural review. 3 days after payment cleared, Harbor Line moved money to a company called Bay Meridian Services. Bay Meridian sent smaller payments to 3 other entities, each registered in different states, each with no real staff, no real office, no real purpose except to receive money and make it vanish. Harper opened another folder. A school renovation project, same structure. A transit station safety upgrade, same structure. Affordable housing inspections, same structure. The names changed. The theft did not. By midnight, Harper had filled 2 legal pads with notes. By 2 in the morning, she knew she was looking at a corruption network that had been running for years. By 3, she was crying. Not because she was afraid. That came later. She cried because one photo showed a classroom ceiling stained with water damage months after the city had paid for repairs. Another showed rust beneath a pedestrian bridge marked as fully inspected. Another showed a transit platform crack that had been reported funded and ignored. Public money had not only been stolen. Safety had been stolen. The next day, she called in sick. Then she called Ellen Marsh. Her old editor answered on the 4th ring. "If you are calling to apologize for leaving journalism, I accept, but I plan to be smug about it." Harper closed her eyes at the sound of that voice. "Ellen, someone sent me documents." The humor vanished. "What kind of documents?" "City contracts. Public Works. Shell companies. Councilman Preston Hale is in the middle of it. Harbor Line Urban Renewal, too. Warren Briggs." Silence. Then Ellen said, "Do not email me anything." "I know. Do not call me from your apartment again after this." "I know. Do you have copies?" "Not yet. Make them. Encrypted. Separate locations." And Harper, "Yes. If this is real, you are not safe." Harper looked at the flash drive on the table. For 1 second, she was back in the grocery store hearing a stranger whisper beside the freezer doors. "I was not safe when I stopped," she said. She made copies. She uploaded encrypted archives to cloud storage under names no one would search. She mailed one drive to June in Denver with a note that said, "Do not open unless I tell you to, or unless something happens to me." June called the moment she received it. "What did you do?" Harper sat on the edge of her bed, exhausted, wearing the same sweater she had worn for 2 days. "I found something." "No." That is what people say before they get murdered in documentaries. "I need you to keep it safe. I need you to buy a dog, marry an accountant, and develop a normal fear of death." Harper almost laughed. "I love you too." June got quiet. "Harper, I know. No, you do not. You think because you are scared you understand the danger. Those are not the same thing." Harper looked toward the window. Across the street, a man in a dark hoodie stood under the awning of a closed bakery. He was looking at his phone. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. "I have to go." She ended the call before June could hear her breathing change. Over the next 3 weeks, Harper lived 2 lives. By day, she wrote hospital statements about community outreach and patient care. By night, she followed the money. She learned that Preston Hale had sat on the city council for 12 years, long enough to know every door money used to enter politics and every alley it used to leave. He smiled in campaign photos beside school children and union workers. He gave speeches about safe bridges, stronger neighborhoods, and responsible development. His office had approved funds that never became repairs. Warren Briggs, CEO of Harborline Urban Renewal, was worse. He played philanthropist in public and butcher in private. He appeared in glossy magazine spreads standing on rooftops speaking about revitalization and the soul of Baltimore. His company billed the city for studies no one conducted, inspections no engineer signed, and consultations that seemed to exist only long enough to justify another payment. Then Harper found the names tied to Cole's world. Not Cole himself. Never that simple. A freight company that had once moved cargo through docks controlled by Maddox men. A private security vendor that shared an address with one of Cole's legitimate businesses from years ago. A construction supply broker whose owner had been photographed at a charity gala 2 tables away from Cole. Thin connections, but enough to make Harper's stomach twist. She told herself not to jump to conclusions. Then the first text came. Stop digging. She changed numbers. The second text arrived 2 days later. You were chosen because you were useful. Do not become curious. She stopped sleeping. She taped paper over the laptop camera. She checked the hallway before opening her door. She carried her keys between her fingers when walking from her car to her building. She hated herself for being afraid. She hated herself more for wanting to call Cole Maddox before she had any right to. The night of the crash, she had stayed late at work because she no longer wanted to go home in the dark. That was the irony. She waited for rain traffic witnesses, city noise. She thought movement would protect her. Then the motorcycle appeared. Now Cole sat beside her hospital bed listening to the story she had spent 3 weeks surviving. When she finished, the room felt smaller. He did not speak right away. Harper studied his profile in the harsh light. He looked older than he had in the coffee shop 2 years ago, but not softer. Men like Cole did not soften. They sharpened inward. Finally he said, "Did you open the files after the first warning?" "Yes." "After the second?" "Yes." "After you suspected my world was connected?" Harper held his gaze. "Yes." Something like anger crossed his face, but it was not aimed at her. "You should have called me sooner. I spent 2 years trying to make sure I never had to call you at all. That was wise. It was cowardly. It was survival." Her fingers tightened in the blanket. "I do not want you to make me feel better about hiding. I am not interested in making you feel better." That pulled a tired laugh from her. "No. I suppose you would be terrible at that. I am excellent at many things. Comfort is not one of them." "No." Their eyes met. For the first time since the crash, Harper felt the edge of something that was not fear. It was dangerous, whatever it was. Warm and sharp at once. Cole leaned forward, elbows resting on his knees. "Listen to me carefully. You will stay here tonight. Officer Mercer will remain outside this room. In the morning you will be discharged if the doctors allow it. You will not return to your apartment alone. You will not go to work. You will not use that laptop again until my people examine it. My laptop has the files, and likely more than the files." Harper understood. The thought made her cold. "You think they got into it. I think whoever sent you those messages knew too much." She looked toward the bag Officer Mercer had placed on the chair near the wall. Her laptop was inside. Her notes. Her whole life, or what remained of it. "I have responsibilities." Cole's voice did not change. "So do the people trying to kill you. They are managing theirs with more discipline. That is a horrible thing to say. It is a useful thing to understand." She closed her eyes. Pain pulsed behind her brow. Beneath it, anger stirred. Not clean anger, not heroic anger. Something messier. Anger at the motorcycle, at the men in the files, at the years she had spent speaking softly in a safe office while the city rotted behind polished press releases. When she opened her eyes, Cole was watching her. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. He looked away first, which surprised her. In the hallway, someone laughed softly. A nurse. Maybe a doctor. Life continuing because it had no idea what had entered the room. Cole stood and walked to the window. Beyond the glass, Baltimore blurred beneath rain and ambulance lights. The easy answer is that your files touch businesses near mine. And the hard answer. He kept his back to her. 2 years ago, after the interview, you asked me one question off the record. Harper frowned, searching through memory and pain. I asked a lot of questions. This one was different. You asked what I wished I had done better. She remembered then. The coffee shop had been nearly empty. The recorder was off. Cole had looked tired in a way he had not allowed while it was running. What did you say, she asked, though she already knew. I said I wished I had been better at protecting people who never asked to stand near my wars. Harper's throat tightened. Cole turned back. You wrote about me. Men who dislike me noticed you. You left work you loved because my shadow touched your life. Now someone has put you in a hospital bed because a different set of powerful men think fear will make you quiet. You did not cause this. No. Then this is not your fault. I did not say fault. What are you saying? His eyes held hers. Responsibility. The word landed heavier than it should have. Before Harper could answer, the curtain pulled back. A nurse stepped in, late 40s, tired eyes, no patience left for intimidating men in expensive suits. Mr. Maddox, she needs rest. Whatever this is, it can wait until morning. Cole looked at Harper. They both knew it could not. Still, he nodded. Officer Mercer stays outside. The nurse opened her mouth. Cole added, please. The word sounded strange from him. Not unnatural, just rare. The nurse paused, then gave one sharp nod. 5 more minutes. She left. Harper watched Cole gather his coat. Cole. He turned. The sound of his first name seemed to change him by a fraction. I am scared, she said. There it was. The truth beneath every file, every brave answer, every night spent digging through stolen money while shadows collected outside her window. Cole came back to the bedside. He did not touch her. Somehow not touching felt more intimate. Good. Harper blinked. That is your response. Fear keeps the body honest. I was hoping for something more reassuring. His gaze moved over the bandage at her temple, the bruise near her jaw, the hand wrapped around the blanket like it was the last solid thing in the world. Then his voice dropped. They reached for you once because they believed no one dangerous was standing close enough to notice. They know better now. A shiver moved through her. Not from cold, from the terrible comfort of being protected by a man who did not make empty promises. That should not make me feel safe, she whispered. No, Cole said. It should not. He stepped toward the curtain. At the edge of the room, he stopped. Try to sleep, Harper. She gave him a faint, broken smile. Do you sleep well at night, Mr. Maddox? For the first time since he arrived, something almost human crossed his face. Not tonight. Then he was gone. Harper lay awake long after the curtain fell closed behind him. The hospital lights dimmed. The hallway quieted. Rain kept touching the window with soft, patient fingers. Outside her room, she heard a chair scrape against the floor. Cole had not left. She closed her eyes and saw the motorcycle again. The white headlight, the wet street, the moment the world broke open. Then she saw a coffee shop from 2 years ago, a man in a charcoal suit and the look in his eyes when she asked if power was worth loneliness. Back then, she had thought she was writing about him. Now, lying bruised beneath hospital sheets with stolen city secrets waiting in her bag, Harper understood she had been writing the first line of a story that had finally come to collect her. Morning came slowly gray and damp, pressing itself against the hospital windows. By the time the doctor signed her discharge papers, Cole Maddox was standing at the end of the hall with his coat over one arm, his driver waiting downstairs, and Harper's messenger bag held in one hand, like it contained something alive. Harper did not remember standing. One moment she was sitting on the edge of the hospital bed signing discharge papers with a pen that felt too heavy in her fingers. The next she was walking down the hall beside Cole Maddox while the world moved around her in bright white fragments. A nurse said something about rest. A doctor reminded her to avoid screens. Stress, alcohol, driving, sudden movement, and anything that made her symptoms worse. Harper almost laughed. Everything made her symptoms worse. The hallway smelled like antiseptic and burnt coffee. Her ribs protested every breath. The bandage above her eyebrow pulled when she frowned. She hated the paper bracelet around her wrist, hated the careful way people looked at her, hated most of all that Cole carried her messenger bag as if it belonged to him now. "That bag is mine," she said. Cole did not look at her. "Yes, I can carry it." "No." She stopped walking. The movement was a mistake. Pain flashed through her side, and for half a second the hallway tilted. Cole's hand was at her elbow before she could fall. His grip was steady, not soft, but exact. Harper looked down at his hand. "I am not helpless." "I know." "Then stop treating me like I am." Cole released her immediately. That should have pleased her. Instead, the absence of his hand made the floor feel less certain. He held out the bag. She reached for it. The weight pulled sharply through her bruised ribs, and she could not hide the wince. Cole watched her for one quiet second, then took the bag back without a word. Harper closed her eyes. "I hate you a little." "No, you don't. You sound very sure." "I often am." She looked up at him, tired enough to be honest. "That must be exhausting for everyone around you." Something near amusement touched his mouth. Officer Mercer stood near the exit, looking as if he had spent the night regretting every life choice that had put him between a wounded journalist and Cole Maddox. He gave Harper a careful nod. "Ma'am, I hope you feel better." "Thank you, officer." His gaze flicked toward Cole. "I pulled what I could from the crash report before it got buried in language." Cole's expression did not change, but his attention sharpened. "Tell me." Mercer lowered his voice. "The cameras at Eastern and Wolf were offline. Maintenance ticket filed yesterday afternoon. Same thing 2 blocks over. The motorcycle was seen once on a private security feed before it hit your route. No plates. Rider covered head to toe." Harper felt the memory return in flashes. White light, rain, metal. Her own scream caught somewhere between her chest and her teeth. Cole noticed. Of course he noticed. That feed, he said to Mercer. "Where warehouse on South Ann belongs to a packaging company." Cole nodded once. "Send it to the number I gave you." Mercer hesitated. "You know I could lose my job for that." Cole looked at him with a calm that felt more dangerous than a threat. "You could lose more by pretending this was an accident." Mercer swallowed. "I will send it." Outside, Baltimore waited under a low gray sky. Rain had softened into mist. Cars hissed along the street. An ambulance idled near the curb, red lights turning in slow circles like a warning that had grown tired of itself. A black SUV pulled up before Cole raised a hand. The driver stepped out broad-shouldered, mid-40s, with silver beginning at his temples and eyes that took in the entire hospital entrance before resting on Harper. "Miles Carter," Cole said. "My driver." Miles opened the rear door. "Miss Vale." Harper slid into the back seat with as much dignity as bruised ribs allowed. Cole entered after her, placing her bag carefully on the floor between his shoes where she could see it but not grab it. The door closed. The city became quieter behind tinted glass. For a few minutes, no one spoke. Miles pulled into traffic with smooth, practiced patience. Cole checked his phone. Harper stared out at the wet streets and tried to understand how quickly a life could become foreign. 24 hours ago, she had an office, a calendar, unpaid laundry, a half-empty carton of oat milk in her refrigerator, and the illusion that fear could be managed if she kept it organized. Now she was in a crime boss's car, with a concussion and stolen city secrets. "I need to go home," she said. Cole did not look up. "No. My laptop has the files. My people will examine it. My clothes are there. My medication list. My notes." "No." She turned toward him, anger rising because it was easier than panic. "You cannot just remove me from my own life." Cole finally looked at her. Someone already did. The words landed with unfair precision. Harper looked away first. Rain threaded down the window. Baltimore slid past in brick glass old churches, boarded storefronts, luxury apartments rising beside blocks that still looked abandoned by every promise ever made. "I have to see it," she said quietly. Cole studied her. "My apartment. If they went there, I need to know." "They did. You don't know that. I know men who send warnings. They never send only one." Harper's throat tightened. "Then I need to see what they took." For a moment, Cole said nothing. His face gave away nothing, but the silence felt like machinery moving behind a locked door. Finally, he tapped the back of Miles's seat. Fells Point. Miles's eyes met Cole's in the rearview mirror. 10 minutes. 5. If it feels wrong. Harper almost objected, then stopped. 5 minutes was more than she had expected. Her building stood on a narrow street lined with old brick row houses, crooked steps, black iron railings, and flower boxes someone had tried to keep alive through winter. It was the kind of place that looked charming from the outside and made apologies once you lived in it. Thin walls, old pipes, heat that rattled at midnight. Harper had loved it anyway. Miles parked directly in front, engine running. Cole stepped out first. He did not reach for her. He only stood between her and the street while she climbed from the car. That was worse somehow, more intimate. He had learned her pride fast and adjusted around it. The stairwell smelled like dust rain and someone's burnt toast. Harper led the way slowly, one hand on the railing. On the 3rd floor, she stopped before her door. Cole was beside her instantly. "What?" Her mouth went dry. "The deadbolt." Cole looked at the lock. "It is not engaged. I always lock it." He moved in front of her, one hand slipping beneath his jacket. Harper stared. "Is that a gun?" "Stay behind me. That is not an answer. It is the answer you need." Cole tested the knob. Unlocked. He pushed the door open with 2 fingers. The apartment waited in silence. Cole entered first. Harper stood in the hallway, every nerve awake. She heard nothing at first, then the faint creak of floorboards. A closet door opened, another closed, a drawer shifted. Finally, Cole's voice came from inside. Clear. She stepped through the doorway and stopped breathing. Her home had been torn apart. Books lay spine up across the floor like broken birds. Cushions had been cut open. Kitchen drawers hung wide, silverware scattered over the tile. Her desk was overturned. Papers covered everything. The small blue mug June had bought her in Denver lay in pieces beneath the window. The worst was the photograph. Harper and June at Ocean City 3 summers ago, both wind-blown and laughing arms around each other. The frame was cracked. The glass had shattered across June's face. Harper walked to it slowly and crouched. Pain punished the movement, but she ignored it. She picked up the frame and brushed glass away with her thumb. A bead of blood appeared. Cole crossed the room. "Let me see. It is fine." "Harper." She looked up, ready to snap at him, but the words died. He was not looking at the apartment. He was looking at the blood on her thumb as if it were another offense someone would answer for. She held out her hand. He wrapped the cut with a clean handkerchief from his pocket. The gesture was efficient, almost tender. Harper hated that she noticed. "They wanted the drive," she said. "They wanted you afraid. They succeeded." "No." Cole looked around the room. "If they succeeded, you would be begging me to take you somewhere quiet and forget this. You are standing in the wreckage calculating what they missed." She swallowed. "They missed the laptop, because you had it with you. And the backup drive, where Harper moved to the kitchen." She opened a cabinet, reached behind a loose strip of wood beneath the sink, and pulled out a small waterproof case taped against the back panel. Cole watched without surprise. "You were a better journalist than you let yourself remember." She held the case against her chest. "I remembered enough." In the bedroom, she packed fast. Jeans, sweaters, toiletries, medication, a notebook from the nightstand, the framed photo of June broken glass, and all. Cole did not rush her until she stood in the doorway looking at the bed, the books, the life she had tried so hard to make harmless. Then his voice came low behind her. "We need to leave." Harper nodded. As they moved toward the door, she saw something on the wall above her desk, a message written in black marker. "Stop while you can." Harper stared at it until the letters blurred. Cole stepped close enough that his sleeve brushed hers. "No," he said. She looked at him. "No, what?" His eyes stayed on the wall. "No one writes on your walls and gets to decide where you stop." They were back in the SUV 3 minutes later. Miles pulled away from the curb without asking what happened. Harper sat in silence, holding the waterproof case in both hands. Cole made one call. "Blake." "I need 2 men in Denver near June Vale. Quiet, no contact unless necessary." Harper turned sharply. "You cannot put men on my sister without asking me." Cole covered the phone with his hand. "I can ask while doing it." "No." His gaze held hers. "If they know about June, she is exposed." Harper opened her mouth, closed it. June's voice echoed in her memory. "You think because you are scared you understand the danger." "Fine," Harper said, "but if she sees them, she will pepper spray them." Cole returned to the call. "Tell them to stay far enough not to get pepper sprayed." Miles made a sound from the front seat that might have been a cough. Cole ended the call. Harper leaned back, exhausted. "You have a strange life. I have a prepared one. That is not better. It is today." The safe house was in Harbor East on the 21st floor of a glass building that looked over the water. The lobby smelled like white flowers and money. A doorman in a dark suit greeted Cole by name, then forgot Harper's face with professional discipline. The elevator rose in silence. Harper watched their reflection in the mirrored wall. She looked pale, bandaged, too small inside Cole's shadow. He looked untouched except for the faint darkness beneath his eyes. He had not slept. She knew it without asking. The apartment was beautiful and empty. Floor-to-ceiling windows opened onto the harbor. The furniture was gray, clean, expensive, and impersonal. There were no family photos, no mail, no shoes by the door, no evidence of a person living there. It felt less like a home than a place powerful men used when the world outside became inconvenient. Cole set her bag on the couch. Kitchen is stocked. Bedroom is through there. Bathroom to the left. Security panel by the door. Cameras cover every entrance to the building and the hallway outside. The windows are reinforced. Harper turned to him. "Why do you need reinforced windows on the 21st floor? People are creative." That is the worst answer you could have given. It is also the true one. She walked to the window and looked down at the city. From this height, Baltimore almost looked peaceful, water shining dull silver, streets cutting between buildings, tiny people moving through ordinary mornings unaware that beneath their feet money had been stolen from bridges, schools, transit stations, and the bones of the city itself. Cole loosened his tie. That small movement made the room feel suddenly private. "I am going to have food sent up. Then my people will examine your laptop. I need to work. You need to rest. I know these files better than anyone. You have a concussion. I also have a corruption network trying to kill me." Cole looked at her for a long moment. "Coffee first." Harper blinked. "That is your compromise. That is my mercy." Despite herself, she smiled. "Strong coffee," I assumed. Within the hour, the apartment became a war room. Not officially. Nothing about Cole Maddox was official when it mattered. Blake Turner arrived first, a tall man with close-cropped hair and the flat eyes of someone who saw threats before people. He checked the door windows, vents, outlets, smoke detectors, lamps, picture frames, and the underside of the dining table. He spoke little. When he did, Cole listened. Theo Grant arrived by video call, his face filling Cole's laptop from a room Harper could not see. He was younger than she expected, black sharp dressed with wire-frame glasses, and the kind of calm that belonged to people who trusted numbers more than promises. Harper's laptop sat closed on the coffee table like a bomb. Blake's tech specialist, a woman named Nia, plugged it into a separate device and began working without connecting it to the apartment network. Harper sat across from her wrapped in a blanket she had not asked for and did not remember accepting. Cole placed coffee in front of her. Black. She raised an eyebrow. "No sugar is optimism. That may be the bleakest thing anyone has ever said about coffee." Nia did not look up, but her mouth twitched. For a little while the room filled with small sounds. Keys tapping, coffee cups touching glass, rain against windows. Cole's low voice on the phone. Harper tried to stay still, but her body kept wanting to move to do something to be useful. Then Nia looked up. "It has a keylogger." The room changed. Harper's fingers tightened around the mug. How long Nia checked the screen? Hard to say exactly. At least 2 weeks, maybe from the first time you opened the drive. Harper felt the blood drain from her face. They saw everything. Nia's voice softened slightly. "Everything you typed. Possibly files opened, searches, passwords, if you entered them." Harper set the mug down before she dropped it. Cole stood behind the couch, silent. She did not want to look at him. She did not want him to see this particular kind of fear, the intimate violation of it. Her apartment had been destroyed, but that was wood and fabric and glass. This was worse. Someone had been inside her thoughts before she even finished forming them. I led them to everything she said. Cole's voice came from behind her. No. Yes. No Harper. They were already there. Now we know the room they were hiding in. She turned. How is that supposed to help? Because people who watch believe they are unseen. That makes them careless. Theo spoke from the laptop. He is right. If they monitored what you opened, we can compare your research timeline with outside movement. Press releases, contract changes, emergency meetings, deleted pages, account transfers. Harper looked at the files spread on the table. You think they reacted to what I found? Cole came around the couch and sat across from her. I think they used you as an alarm system. The anger returned, then hot enough to cut through the nausea. They sent me the files, watched what I did, then tried to scare me off when I saw too much. Possibly. Or someone else watched. Also possible. Harper pushed the blanket away and reached for the printed notes from her bag. Cole caught her wrist gently, slowly. She looked at his hand. You keep touching me like I might break. His thumb rested against her pulse. You keep moving like pain is a rumor. For a moment, neither let go. Then Harper pulled her wrist back and opened the first folder. They worked for hours. By noon, the coffee had gone cold. By 2, sandwiches sat half-eaten on the kitchen counter. By 4, the windows had filled with pale winter light, and the glass coffee table was covered in paper. Harper mapped the documents from memory, her voice steadying as facts gave her something solid to stand on. Preston Hale approves the public safety funds through committee. Harborline receives consulting contracts. Harborline overbills the city sometimes for work that never happened. The money moves through Bay Meridian, then through smaller companies. Theo added account numbers and registration records. Blake listened from near the door, arms crossed. Cole leaned over the table beside Harper close enough that she could smell his cologne beneath the coffee and rain. Cedar. Smoke. Something clean and expensive trying to hide the blood underneath. She pointed to one company name. Chesapeake Civic Solutions. This one appears in 3 projects. Theo typed. Registered in Delaware. Mailing address is a law office. No employees. No website. Shell Company, Harper said. Shell Company. Theo agreed. Cole looked at the next line. Harborline Urban Renewal. You know Warren Briggs, I know of him. Harper looked up. That means yes. That means there are men I know and men I allow near me. Briggs was never the second kind. Why, Cole's eyes stayed on the paper, because he smiles before he lies. Harper studied him. That is specific. Liars have habits. And you, his gaze lifted to hers. I do not smile first. The silence after that had weight. Theo cleared his throat from the screen, wisely pretending he had noticed nothing. Found something. 2 of the shell companies tied to Harborline route back through a holding firm with 1 major investor. Cole's attention snapped back. Name? Raymond Knox. Blake muttered something under his breath. Harper looked from one man to the other. Who is Raymond Knox? Cole straightened. Old guard. That is not an answer. It is the polite one. Blake moved closer. Knox controls pieces of construction demolition hauling waste removal union labor. Not officially. Never officially. Harper sat back. So if someone was stealing from public infrastructure at this scale, they would need Knox to look away, Cole said. Or help. The scope of it settled over her. Councilman Hale, Warren Briggs, shell companies, public funds, Cole's orbit, Raymond Knox. It was not a story anymore. It was a city map drawn in money and fear. Harper's phone buzzed on the table. Everyone looked at it. Unknown number. Her throat tightened. Cole nodded once. She picked it up. The text contained 1 sentence. The files were meant to help. Stop going beyond them. A second message appeared. There are worse things than car accidents. Harper stared at the words until they blurred. Cole took the phone from her hand and passed it to Blake. Trace what you can. Blake gave him a look. It will be a burner. I said what you can. Theo's voice came through the laptop. If this message came right after Knox appeared in our search, then whoever is watching still has access. Nia looked up from Harper's laptop. Not anymore. I isolated it. Cole's eyes moved to Harper's phone. She understood before he said it. My phone. Nia reached for it. Could be clean. Could be mirrored. Could be compromised through an account instead of the device. Harper stood too fast. Pain seized her ribs. The room dipped. Cole caught her. This time she did not fight him. For a second she stood with one hand against his chest, feeling the steady force of him under her palm. His heart beat slower than hers. Of course it did. Breathe, he said. I am trying. No, you are arguing with pain. Breathe. She hated that obeying him helped. Inhale. Exhale. Again. His hand rested at her back, careful of the bruises. Across the room, Blake suddenly found the window very interesting. Theo looked down at something off-screen. Naya kept typing with heroic discipline. Harper stepped away first. "I am fine." Cole's expression said he disagreed, but for once he let the lie stand. The sun had dropped by the time Naya finished. Harper's laptop was isolated. Her phone was replaced with a clean device. Her accounts were locked down. New passwords, new encryption, new rules. Her old life was being dismantled piece by piece in front of her, and every practical measure felt like another admission that the safe version of Harper Vale had been an illusion. Blake left 2 men downstairs. Nia packed her equipment. Theo stayed on screen, still tracing the money. Miles brought dinner from a restaurant Harper suspected did not deliver for anyone except Cole. She ate because Cole placed food in front of her and stared until she picked up a fork. "That is not normal," she said. "Eating. Threatening people with eye contact until they eat. You are eating. I am eating angrily. Still counts." Something in her chest loosened. Later, after Blake checked the hallway one more time and Theo ended the call with a promise to keep digging, Harper found herself alone with Cole in the quiet apartment. The city glittered below them. On the coffee table, the dirty map remained. Names, companies, transactions, photographs, arrows. The shape of a war neither of them had chosen cleanly. Cole stood by the window's jacket-off sleeves rolled to his forearms. For the first time, Harper saw the tattoos winding along his skin. Dark lines, old symbols, names hidden in patterns. She remembered asking about them 2 years ago. He had said, "Personal history." She had known not to push. Tonight, she pushed. Do any of those mean regret? Cole looked down at his arm, then back at the city. "Some." "Which ones?" "The ones I do not explain." She walked closer, slow enough that he could stop her if he wanted. He did not. Did you ever want a different life? His reflection in the glass looked like a ghost wearing a man's body. Wanting is easy. That is not an answer. It is the closest one I have. Harper stood beside him. Below, traffic moved along the harbor. Somewhere out there, Preston Hale was probably making calls. Warren Briggs was probably destroying records. Raymond Knox was probably hearing Harper's name for the first time or pretending he had not heard it before. And someone somewhere was waiting for her to stop. She looked at Cole's reflection. "I am not going to stop. I know. You say that like it is a problem. It is many problems. Are you going to tell me to walk away?" "No." Why Cole turned from the window. "Because you would not forgive me if I did." Her breath caught. That was the thing about Cole Maddox. He could make a simple sentence sound like a hand against the bare truth of her. Harper looked away first. Her new phone buzzed on the table. Not a message. An incoming file from Theo. Cole picked it up, opened it, and his face changed. Harper knew that look now. Something dangerous had just become specific. "What is it?" He turned the screen toward her. A corporate filing, a board record, a name connected to one of the shell companies through a family trust and a development nonprofit. Harper read it once, then again. Caroline Pierce, Deputy Mayor for Housing and Development. The city outside the window kept shining innocent and guilty all at once, while Harper stared at the name of a woman powerful enough to smile on television and make entire neighborhoods disappear on paper. Caroline Pierce. The name sat on the screen in clean black letters, harmless in the way powerful names often looked harmless when they were not being spoken aloud. Harper stared at it until the edges of the letters seemed to blur. She had seen Caroline on television dozens of times, standing at podiums, cutting ribbons, walking through construction sites in a hard hat that looked too clean to be real. She had a calm face, a careful voice, and the rare political gift of sounding sincere without ever giving away what she actually believed. Cole stood beside the table, the clean phone still in his hand. "Deputy Mayor for Housing and Development," Harper said. "Yes, she controls city housing funds, construction approvals, development reviews, emergency repair budgets." "And access," Cole added. Harper looked up. Access to what Cole turned the screen toward himself again, reading the filing Theo had sent. His expression did not change, but she could feel the room drawing tighter around him. Access to everything Preston Hale and Warren Briggs would need. Permits, committees, inspection delays, public pressure, private favors. Harper pushed herself up from the couch slower this time because her ribs had already punished her enough for pride. "Caroline Pierce has been copied on emails in the files, but never directly. She is there, but she is careful." Cole's eyes lifted to hers. Careful people leave fingerprints only when they want someone to find them. That thought was worse than a confession. Harper walked to the glass wall and looked down at Baltimore. The city lights shimmered across the harbor like broken coins. Somewhere in those lights were schools with leaking ceilings, bridges with rusted supports, neighborhoods promised repairs that never came. Somewhere in those lights was a woman who could stand before cameras and talk about public trust while her name hid behind shell companies. Or maybe not. That was the part that made Harper's head ache deeper. Maybe Caroline Pierce was guilty. Maybe she was being framed. Maybe she had built the frame herself so she could step out of it at exactly the right time. Cole's voice came from behind her. "What do you know about her?" Harper did not turn around. "Only what everyone knows. She grew up in Maryland, went to Georgetown, worked in urban policy, then nonprofit housing, then city government. She is polished, ambitious, impossible to corner in an interview. Reporters either admire her or hate her because she gives long answers that sound complete and reveal nothing. She married divorced. No children. Rumor says she wants the mayor's office. Everyone near a throne wants the throne." Harper turned back. "You say that like you have experience." Cole's mouth moved slightly. "I have watched men kill for chairs less comfortable than that one." She almost smiled, but the feeling did not last. Theo's face filled Cole's laptop again. He looked tired but alert, glasses low on his nose, several monitors glowing behind him. "I dug deeper on Pierce," Theo said. "The holding company was registered under her maiden name 15 years ago before she entered city government. On paper, it is inactive. In practice, it received small distributions from a Delaware trust connected to one of Harborline's shell routes." "How small?" Harper asked. "Small enough to explain away. Large enough to prove contact." Cole stood behind the chair, both hands resting on its back. "Pattern. Not regular. 3 payments in 8 years, each within a month of a major contract approval." Harper exhaled. "That is not coincidence." "No," Theo said. "But it is not a smoking gun either." Cole looked at Harper. "It is bait." "Maybe," she said. "Or blood." The room went quiet. Blake Turner, who had been watching the hallway feed near the security panel, spoke without looking away from the screen. "Could be both." Harper turned toward him. Blake shrugged. "A trap works better when the bait is real." That was the first thing Blake had said all evening that sounded like more than a security assessment, and Harper wished it had been less useful. Cole tapped the table once. "We need to know whether Pierce is moving against Hale and Briggs or moving with them." Harper looked at the scattered documents. "She is in my files too lightly. If she was central, there should be more. Unless she cleaned them before they were sent to you, or someone removed enough to make her look like the missing piece." Cole nodded once. "You are thinking like the person who sent them." "I am trying." "No. You are doing it." The praise was quiet, but it found her anyway. Harper lowered her eyes to the table before he saw too much of her reaction. Theo cleared his throat. "I can keep tracing, but there is another way to test her." Harper looked at him. What way, Cole answered before Theo could. "We show her what you have." Harper's head snapped toward him. No. Cole held her gaze. Not all of it. Enough. No, Cole. That is not reporting. That is provocation. It is both. I do not use unfinished stories as traps. Every story is a trap for someone. Harper stepped closer to the table, anger giving her posture even when pain tried to take it. That may be how information works in your world, but not in mine. Cole leaned forward slightly. In your world, information made men resign, get arrested, lose fortunes, lose families, lose futures. Do not pretend words are cleaner than guns, because they do not leave powder on your hands. The room held its breath. Harper hated that he was right. She hated the way he could drag ugly truths into the open and set them on the table like proof. My job is not to wound, she said. Cole's voice softened, but not by much. No. Your job is to aim. The words struck deeper than she wanted them to. Harper looked down at the documents, the invoices, the photos, the payment records, the names of people who had treated public safety like a private account. She had spent years believing the truth was a light. Cole saw it as a blade. Maybe it had always been both. What exactly are you suggesting? She asked. Cole pulled the chair out and sat across from her. You write the article. A real one. Not a threat. Not a bluff. Everything you can prove. Hale Briggs, Harborline, the shell companies, the safety funds, the public harm. Then you include Caroline Pierce exactly where the evidence places her. Not more, not less. And then you send it to her. Harper stared at him. You want me to ask her for comment? I want you to give her 48 hours to reveal whether she is afraid of the truth or eager to control it. Theo nodded from the screen. If she is innocent or trying to take down the network, she will contact you. If she is dirty, she will still contact you, but differently. Differently, how Harper asked. Cole's eyes were flat, with a lie that feels rehearsed or a threat that arrives through someone else. Harper looked toward the windows again. Night pressed against the glass. Her reflection looked pale, bruised, and older than she had 2 days ago. A journalist asks for comment before publication. That part was normal. Ethical, even. But this was not normal. Normal did not involve a crime boss standing in a luxury apartment while his men checked camera feeds and traced dirty money through shell companies. Normal did not involve a deputy mayor whose name might be the key to a stolen city. Harper sat at the table. Fine. Cole watched her closely. Fine. I will write it, but I write it my way. You should. And you do not change facts to increase pressure. I do not need to change facts. That was true. The facts were heavy enough. They wrote until morning, became afternoon, and afternoon dissolved into evening. Harper forgot the pain in her ribs until she moved wrong. She forgot the bandage above her eyebrow until she touched it and felt the pull. She forgot to eat until Cole placed a plate beside her and said her name in a tone that made argument feel childish. The article grew line by line. Harper opened with the bridge funds because the records were cleanest. Emergency money approved after engineers warned of structural weakness. Harborline hired for consulting. Funds released. Repairs delayed. Inspection reports altered. Payments routed through shell companies. Then the schools. Then transit stations. Then affordable housing inspections that had been marked complete, although photographs showed exposed wiring mold, cracked foundations, and locked units no family could safely live in. Cole read without interrupting. When he spoke, it was not to soften the story. It was to make it stronger. This line suggests motive. You cannot prove motive. Harper deleted it. This paragraph buries Hale too low. She moved it. This sentence gives Briggs room to claim administrative error. She rewrote it. At one point, she looked at him across the table. You are disturbingly good at this. Cole did not look up from the page. I have spent my life learning which words make powerful men panic. That is not comforting. It was not meant to be. She kept typing. The article reached 25 pages with supporting references, transaction charts, email excerpts, and timelines. It was not elegant in the way magazine writing could be elegant. It was built for impact, clear, documented, ruthless. At the end, Harper added Caroline Pierce, not as a villain, not as a savior, as a question the city deserved answered. Deputy Mayor Caroline Pierce's office appeared in multiple communications related to the projects under review. Financial records also show entities historically connected to Pierce's family trust received payments routed through companies tied to Harbor Line Urban Renewal. Pierce has not been accused of a crime. This publication requested comment prior to release. Harper read it twice, then again. Cole stood behind her close but not touching. That is fair. Fair can still destroy someone. Yes. Harper turned her head and looked up at him. Does that bother you? Cole's eyes stayed on the screen. Not when it is deserved. And when it is not. A pause. Yes. That answer surprised her enough that she forgot what she meant to say next. For a moment his face was open in some narrow, private way. Not soft, never that, but less armored. Then the clean phone on the table buzzed. Theo had sent the private email address. Harper copied the article into a secure attachment. Her fingers hovered above the keys. She read the message aloud as she typed. Deputy Mayor Pierce, I believe you will recognize some of the information in the attached document. I intend to publish within 48 hours. Before publication, I am offering you the opportunity to provide comment or context. Harper Vale. Cole nodded. Send it. Harper did. The message left the outbox. The apartment seemed to go very still. Blake checked the hallway feed. Theo stayed online. Miles, who had returned without Harper hearing him enter, stood near the kitchen with his coat still on. No one spoke for 20 minutes. At 21 minutes, the clean phone rang. Unknown number. Harper looked at Cole. He wrote on a notepad and turned it toward her. Speaker, she answered. This is Harper Vale. A woman's voice came through controlled and smooth. Miss Vale, this is Caroline Pierce. Even through the phone, Harper could hear the room Caroline must be standing in. Quiet, expensive, protected. Deputy Mayor, thank you for calling. Let us not waste each other's time. You have been handed a weapon by someone who does not care where you aim it. Harper kept her voice calm. Then tell me where it should be aimed. A pause. Cole's eyes stayed on Harper's face. Caroline said, Not over the phone. You can provide written comment. I can provide the truth. Harper almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because every person in the files probably believed they owned some version of that word. Then provide it, in person, tomorrow morning. Somewhere public. You may bring counsel. You may bring security. I assume, given the nature of your recent company, that you already have both. Harper looked at Cole. His face did not change. Caroline knew, or guessed. Either way, the board had shifted. Harper said George Peabody Library. 10 o'clock. A dramatic choice. A public one. That does not always make a place safe. No. But it makes it visible. Another pause. When Caroline spoke again, her voice was lower. Miss Vale, I hope you understand something before you walk farther into this. The people you are investigating do not fear shame. They fear prison. They fear poverty. They fear losing the machines that protect them. Men like that do not negotiate with conscience. Harper's eyes moved to Cole. No, she said. They negotiate with leverage. For the first time, Caroline sounded almost amused. Perhaps you are less out of practice than I thought. The line went dead. Harper set the phone down. No one moved for a second. Then Cole said, She knows enough to be afraid. Harper rubbed her temple. Or enough to pretend. Blake looked at Cole. Library is hard to secure. Do it anyway. Harper stood. I chose public for a reason. Cole turned to her. And I will keep you alive in public for the same reason. She wanted to argue. She had arguments prepared. Good ones. Arguments about autonomy journalism not becoming his possession, not letting danger turn her into someone who needed permission to breathe. But her body still hurt from the last time someone had tried to make a point with a motorcycle. So she said nothing. Morning came too quickly. Harper slept for 3 hours in the guest room and woke before her alarm. The bed was too soft. The apartment too quiet. For a disoriented second, she thought she was home and had dreamed the crash, the hospital, the ransacked apartment, the name Caroline Pierce glowing on a screen. Then she saw the clothes folded on the chair. Not hers. A dark sweater, black coat, jeans in her size. She stepped into the living room and found Cole at the dining table, already dressed, already awake. Coffee beside him, a printed security plan spread beneath one hand. He looked up. You should have slept longer. You should have slept at all. I slept. When? His silence answered. Harper poured coffee in the kitchen. Her hands were steadier now, though her ribs ached and her head still felt full of water and broken glass. Miles drove them to the library in a black SUV that seemed to glide through Baltimore's morning traffic without belonging to it. Blake followed in another car. 2 of Cole's people were already inside, one near the entrance, one in the upper gallery. Harper knew because Cole told her, not because she saw them. The George Peabody Library opened around them like a cathedral built for books. Iron balconies climbed in graceful tiers. Pale light fell through the skylight. Students whispered at tables. Tourists took careful photos. A woman in a red scarf read alone beneath a column, unaware that a conversation about stolen millions and attempted murder was about to take place 20 feet away. Harper chose a table with a view of the entrance. Cole chose the chair beside her that placed his body between her and most of the room. She noticed. He noticed her noticing. Neither commented. Caroline Pierce arrived at exactly 10. She wore a cream coat, pearl earrings, and the composed expression of a woman who had never once entered a room without deciding what role everyone else would play inside it. Her eyes found Harper first, then Cole. For the briefest moment, surprise disturbed her face. Not fear. Recognition, Miss Vale Caroline said. Harper stood. The movement hurt, but she stood anyway. Deputy Mayor. Caroline extended her hand. Harper shook it. Then Caroline looked at Cole. Cole Maddox. He did not stand. Caroline Pierce. You have become difficult to avoid. I was never trying to be avoided. No, she said. Men like you rarely are. She sat across from them and placed her phone face down on the table, a gesture of trust, or theater. Harper opened her notebook. You said you had the truth. Caroline folded her hands. The files you received were sent by Mason Briggs, Warren Briggs's nephew. He works as a junior policy aide in my office. Harper kept her face still. Why would Warren Briggs's nephew leak files exposing his uncle? Because he is being blackmailed. By whom? If I knew that with certainty, this conversation would be very different. Cole spoke for the first time. You expect us to believe a junior aide collected years of financial records, internal emails, shell company documents, and photographs by himself? Caroline looked at him. No, I expect you to understand he was given access by someone else. Convenient. Most ugly things are. Harper leaned forward slightly. You are saying Mason sent the files, but someone else built them? Yes. And you know this because Caroline reached into her bag and withdrew a small silver drive. She placed it on the table between them. Because I have been building my own case for 3 years. Harper stared at the drive. Caroline continued. Hale and Briggs are not the whole network. They are visible pieces, useful men, greedy enough to move money, vain enough to believe no one above them could sacrifice them. I have records, witness statements, recordings, original contracts, and correspondence that connects the theft to people beyond City Hall, including Raymond Knox, Cole asked. Caroline's eyes sharpened. So, you found him? Cole did not answer. Caroline looked back at Harper. Publishing now will make noise. It will not make convictions. It will alert everyone involved. Witnesses will run. Documents will disappear. People who might testify will suddenly forget or suddenly die. Harper's pen stilled. You want me to wait? 2 months. No. Caroline did not blink. 2 months gives federal prosecutors time to move. Is there a federal investigation? Yes. Name the office. I will not compromise an active investigation in a public library. Cole's voice stayed mild. But you will hand over a drive. Caroline's smile was small and cold. To her, not to you. Harper looked at the drive, then at Caroline. What do you get? The question pleased Caroline. Harper could see it. I get to be the person who helped expose a corruption network instead of the woman whose office was close enough to be blamed for missing it. That is honest. It is useful. Honesty is often useful when one has nothing better. Cole leaned back. And the payments tied to your family trust. For the first time, something hard moved behind Caroline's eyes. Old money. Old mistakes. Old men using old paperwork because they assume women like me will be too frightened to open locked rooms. That was almost an answer, Cole said. Caroline ignored him. Her attention stayed on Harper. Verify the drive. Speak to your editor. Check every document. But do not publish that article until you know whose hand is on your shoulder. Harper felt Cole beside her, silent and dangerous. Caroline stood. Then she looked down at Harper with something that might have been warning or pity. The person who sent you those files did not choose you because you were brave. They chose you because you once ran, and they believed fear would make you easy to steer. Harper's throat tightened. Caroline picked up her bag, leaving the drive on the table. I hope they were wrong. She walked away through the library's pale light, passing students and tourists who had no idea a city had just changed shape beside them. Harper did not touch the drive. Cole did. He picked it up with a handkerchief and placed it inside a small evidence bag Blake had given him before they entered. Harper watched Caroline disappear through the doors. She knew about the payments, Harper said. Yes. She had an answer ready. Yes. Do you believe her? Cole looked toward the entrance, then back at Harper. I believe she told us truths arranged in the order that served her. On the drive back to Harbor East, Harper said nothing. The library conversation replayed in pieces. Mason Briggs, federal prosecutors, 2 months. Raymond Knox. Her own fear turned into a tool in someone else's hand. At the safe house, Theo examined Caroline's drive on an isolated system. Clean. Then he opened the first folder. The room went quiet. Caroline had not exaggerated. There were recordings, witness statements, internal memos, original contracts, copies of invoices Harper had only seen altered, names she recognized and names she did not. The network was larger than her files had shown. Harper sat slowly. She was telling the truth. Cole stood behind her, part of it. Her new phone buzzed. Everyone turned. Unknown number. Harper opened the message. Pierce is lying. No federal case exists. She met Knox's lawyer last night. Publish now or she buries every witness you have not found. A photo came through. Caroline Pierce in a parking garage speaking to a gray-haired man in a navy suit. Theo cursed softly. Cole took the phone. Run the face. Theo worked fast. The answer came in less than a minute. Graham Voss, Theo said. Raymond Knox's attorney. Harper looked at Cole. Why would she meet with Knox's lawyer? Cole stared at the photo, his face unreadable. Because she is cutting a deal, or covering a crime, or making sure someone believes exactly what this message wants us to believe. Harper pressed both hands to the table. Every road forked into another lie. Cole set the phone down and looked at the article draft waiting on the laptop. His voice was quiet when he spoke. We stop asking who wants us to trust them. Harper looked up. Cole's eyes were already on hers. We only ask what we can prove. Harper turned back to the screen to the article that had become heavier with every hour. Her fingers found the keyboard. The city outside the windows kept moving, unaware that the truth was sitting in a room above the harbor waiting for someone bruised, angry, and done hiding to press send. Harper's fingers hovered over the keyboard. The article was open on the screen, every paragraph loaded with names that had once been protected by offices, money-old favors, and the kind of silence that kept cities obedient. Preston Hale, Warren Briggs, Harbor Line Urban Renewal, Raymond Knox, Caroline Pierce, shell companies, false inspections, stolen safety funds, schools patched only on paper, bridges repaired only in invoices, public trust broken into pieces small enough to launder. Cole stood behind her close enough that she could feel the heat of him, but not close enough to touch. He had learned that about her. There were moments when Harper needed a hand at her back. There were moments when she needed space to decide whether fear still owned her. This was the second kind. The city moved beyond the glass, beautiful from a distance, guilty up close. Boats cut through black water in the harbor. Traffic slid along the streets below. Somewhere, people were unlocking shops, walking dogs, riding buses, crossing bridges, dropping children at schools whose repair funds had been stolen by men who smiled for campaign photos. Harper stared at the final line of the article. The public has a right to know where its money went, who profited, and who allowed safety to become another market for corruption. Her hands trembled once, then stilled. Cole's voice came low behind her. You do not have to prove courage to me. She looked at the screen. I am not doing this for you. I know. I am not doing this because I am fearless either. I know that too. She turned slightly enough to see him from the corner of her eye. He had taken off his suit jacket. His sleeves were rolled to his forearms. The tattoos she had noticed the night before ran along his skin like private history, written in a language she was not yet allowed to read. Then why are you standing so close? His eyes met hers. Because if your hand shakes again, I want you to know it is not because you are alone. Something inside her chest tightened. Harper looked back at the article. 2 years earlier, she had walked away from journalism because fear had become louder than purpose. People had called it survival. They had not been wrong, but survival had a way of shrinking a person if they built a home inside it. One safe day became another. One careful silence became a habit. One press release became a life. Then a brown envelope had arrived at her door, and every buried part of her had opened its eyes. She attached the article, then the source documents, then the images, then the payment charts Theo had built through the night. She sent everything to Ellen Marsh first, then to 2 national investigative desks, then to a federal prosecutor whose name Ellen had given her years ago with the warning that he was one of the few men in law enforcement who still knew how to be embarrassed by corruption. The messages left the outbox one by one. Harper sat back. Nothing happened. No thunder. No sirens. No instant collapse of City Hall. just the soft hum of the apartment, the rain beginning again against the windows, and Cole Maddox standing behind her like a storm that had chosen a side. Harper exhaled. "It is done." Cole looked toward the hallway camera feed on the wall panel. "No," he said quietly. "Now they know it is done." She turned to ask what he meant. The lights flickered once, not enough to fail, enough to warn. Cole moved before Harper understood the room had changed. He crossed to the security panel and touched the screen. 3 camera feeds held steady. The 4th froze on an empty corridor. The 5th went black. Cole's face emptied. Harper. The way he said her name made her stand. "What is it?" He was already at the table, gathering her laptop and phone with one hand. "Bedroom. What now?" There was no anger in his voice, no panic. Only command stripped down to its barest shape. A soft beep sounded from the security panel. Then another. Cole looked at the screen. The service elevator had opened on the 21st floor. Harper felt cold move through her body. "You said this building was secure." "It is." His hand closed around her wrist, careful but firm. "That is why they had to be good." From somewhere beyond the apartment door came a sound so faint she might have missed it on any other morning. Metal touching metal. A lock being worked by someone with patience. Cole pulled her toward the bedroom. Harper grabbed the printed copy of the article from the table. "Leave it," he said. "No." "Harper." "No." He looked at her face, saw whatever he needed to see, and stopped arguing. They entered the bedroom. Cole crossed to the bookcase built into the far wall and pressed his thumb against a hidden panel. The shelves released with a quiet click, opening to a narrow room lined with monitors, supplies, water medical equipment, and a steel door thick enough to make the rest of the apartment feel decorative. Harper stared. "You have a panic room. I have several." "Of course you do." He pushed the laptop and phone into her hands. "Inside." She stepped in, then turned when she realized he was not following. "No." Cole looked toward the apartment door. The lock gave a low final sound. "Inside. Harper. You are coming with me." "No." "Cole." His name cracked in her mouth. For the first time, the command in his face shifted. "Not much. Enough." He stepped closer, so close she had to tilt her head back to hold his gaze. "Listen to me. Lock the door. Do not open it unless you hear my voice say the sentence." "What sentence? Coffee is better without sugar." Her breath shook. "That is a terrible password. You will remember it." Someone entered the apartment. Not loudly, not like a burglar, like a professional. Harper grabbed Cole's shirt. "I did not publish that story so you could die outside a hidden door." His eyes dropped to her hand. When he looked back at her, his voice was lower. "I am not dying in my own apartment. That is arrogance. That is experience." The first suppressed shot cracked from the living room. Cole shoved her fully inside and shut the steel door. The lock sealed. The room swallowed her. For 1 second, Harper could not move. The monitors showed pieces of the apartment in cold blue light. Living room, kitchen, hallway, bedroom, front door. 3 men entered from the hall. Black clothes, covered faces, guns fitted with suppressors. They moved with purpose, one toward the windows, one toward the kitchen, one toward the bedroom. Cole appeared on the living room feed. He was calm, too calm. He had a gun in his hand, now held low against his thigh. His white shirt looked almost bright in the dim apartment. The first man saw him. Cole fired twice. The man dropped behind the couch. Harper covered her mouth, but no sound came out. The second man turned toward Cole. Cole moved before the gun could lift. A blur of violence so fast the monitor barely caught it. He slammed the man into the edge of the kitchen counter, stripped the weapon from his hand, and drove his elbow into the man's throat. The man folded soundlessly. The third man reached the bedroom. Harper stepped back from the door. She could hear him outside now, not through the monitor, through the steel. Footsteps, a breath, the scrape of something against the hidden frame. Then another figure entered the bedroom feed. Miles. Harper had never seen him move like that. The quiet driver became a weapon with shoulders. He caught the third man from behind and drove him into the wall hard enough to shake the camera. The man fought. Miles absorbed the first strike, ducked the second, and slammed the attacker to the floor. Cole entered the bedroom seconds later. The third man reached for a knife. Cole shot him in the leg. The man screamed. The sound came through the steel as a muffled human tear in the air. Harper flinched. Cole crouched beside him. The camera had no audio, but she could read the shape of Cole's posture. Controlled, close, terrifying. He was asking a question. The man did not answer. Cole pressed the gun against the wound. The man answered. Harper looked away. Her hands were shaking now. The printed article trembled in her grip. Blood roared behind her ears. She had known Cole was dangerous. Of course she had known. She had written it. She had researched it. She had seen the way rooms reacted when he entered. Knowing was not the same as watching. On the screen, Blake Turner and two of Cole's men rushed into the apartment. Blake checked the downed men with efficient hands. Miles spoke into his phone. Cole stood slowly, one hand pressed against his side. Harper stepped closer to the monitor. Blood darkened the white of his shirt near his ribs. "No," she whispered. She hit the intercom button. Cole. No answer. He looked toward the hidden door as if he had heard her through steel and fear. Then his voice came through the speaker. "Coffee is better without sugar." Harper opened the door before she remembered breathing. Cole stood in the bedroom, his face pale beneath his control, his left hand still pressed to his side. She went straight to him. "Move your hand." "It is nothing." "Move your hand." His mouth twitched. "You are very bossy for someone in a panic room." "Cole." He moved his hand. The cut was shallow but long, slicing across his ribs where a blade had found him before he ended the fight. Blood soaked into his shirt, not enough to kill enough to make Harper's stomach turn. She grabbed the first aid kit from the panic room and pushed him onto the edge of the bed. "Sit." Miles appeared in the doorway. Cole looked at him. "Take the breathing one somewhere useful." Harper froze. "Alive," she said. Cole's eyes moved to her. For a moment, the room held two worlds. In his world, the man who came to kill her was not a person anymore. He was information waiting to be extracted. In hers, he was still a line she could not unknow if crossed. Cole looked at Miles. Alive. Miles nodded and disappeared. Harper pressed gauze against Cole's side, harder than necessary. That was not a suggestion. I understood. "Did you?" His hand closed around her wrist, not stopping her, only anchoring the moment. "Yes." Her anger wavered. He was bleeding because men had come for her. He was also the kind of man who could make alive sound like mercy rather than default. Harper cleaned the wound with shaking hands. Cole watched her face instead of the blood. "You are angry. I am terrified. Same family. No, do not do that. Do not make everything sound like strategy." His gaze sharpened. "What would you like it to sound like?" "Like you almost got stabbed because of me." His voice was quiet. "No, I got stabbed because a man missed my heart." Despite herself, a broken laugh escaped her. Then tears came so suddenly she hated them. Cole's expression shifted. He looked more disturbed by her tears than by the knife wound. "Harper, do not." "I did not say anything. You were about to." He let his hand fall away from her wrist. She taped the bandage in place, clumsy but secure. In the living room, Blake's men dragged the bodies out through the service entrance. There was blood on the hardwood, glass near the kitchen, a bullet buried somewhere in the wall behind the couch. The apartment that had felt sterile hours ago now looked like the truth had left a physical mark. Cole stood. Harper grabbed his arm. "You need stitches. I need answers. You need stitches first." Blake entered, wiping his hands with a cloth. One dead, one unconscious, one talking enough to identify the payment route, hired through a cutout. Order came last night after the email to Pierce. Harper looked at Cole. "Caroline." Blake shook his head. "Not confirmed. Payment moved through a shell connected to Warren Briggs." Cole's face hardened. "Briggs is panicking." Harper crossed to the laptop. The story had been sent less than an hour ago. Ellen might not have opened it yet. The clean phone rang. Harper looked at the screen. Ellen Marsh. She answered with blood on her hands, though most of it was Cole's. "Ellen." Her old editor's voice came through rough and awake. "Tell me you are somewhere safe." Harper looked at the broken apartment around her. "That depends on the definition." Ellen swore. "I opened the files. Harper, this is bigger than what you described." "I know." "No, you do not. I have 2 editors in the room, our legal counsel on the way, and a federal contact asking how fast we can authenticate the documents. If we publish, this city detonates." Harper looked at Cole. He stood near the window, one hand against his bandaged side, speaking quietly to Blake. "It already has." Ellen heard something in her voice. "What happened?" "Men came to stop us." A long silence. Then Ellen said, "Are you hurt?" "No." "That was not my question." "Are you hurt?" Harper closed her eyes. "No worse than before." Ellen exhaled. "I am moving this to partner outlets now. No single newsroom sits on something this dangerous alone. If anyone asks, we receive the files from multiple verified channels. I will not let them isolate you." Harper's throat tightened. "Thank you. Do not thank me yet. Once this goes live, every liar in Baltimore will call himself a victim. I remember." "No, you do not. None of us ever remember until it happens again." The line ended with Ellen promising publication within hours. Harper set the phone down. Cole came to her side. "Your editor? She is publishing." "Good. Is it?" He looked at the blood on the floor, then at her face. "Yes." The certainty should have annoyed her. Instead, it steadied something she did not want to admit needed steadying. By late morning, the first headline appeared. It came from Ellen's publication, then spread so fast the internet seemed to ignite around it. "Massive public works corruption scheme, tied to Baltimore officials and private developers." Harper sat on the couch with the laptop in front of her, Cole beside her, despite her repeated instruction that he should be lying down. Miles stood near the kitchen. Blake moved in and out of the room, issuing orders into his phone. Theo was back on video tracing accounts as banks began freezing transactions and people began moving money in panic. The second headline followed from a national outlet. "Safety funds diverted from schools, bridges, and transit projects. Documents show." Then another. "Councilman Preston Hale named in infrastructure corruption documents." Then television picked it up. Harper watched her own words become public fact. A news anchor stood outside City Hall under a gray sky. Behind her, reporters clustered like gulls before a storm. The anchor spoke with the grave-sharpened voice broadcasters used when tragedy and opportunity met. Documents obtained by multiple news organizations appear to show a years-long scheme involving city officials, private development firms, and shell companies that diverted funds from critical public safety projects across Baltimore. The screen changed. A photo of Preston Hale appeared. Then Warren Briggs. Then Harborline Urban Renewal's logo. Then a school hallway with buckets beneath a leaking ceiling. Harper's breath caught. She knew that photo. It had been in the files. Seeing it on television made it different. Real, in a way, documents were not. The broadcast cut to a woman standing outside the school, arms wrapped around herself, face tight with anger. "My daughter's classroom had water coming through the ceiling for months," the woman said. "They told us repairs were done. They told us it was safe." Harper lowered the laptop slightly. Cole watched her. The woman on screen continued. "If they stole that money, they did not steal from a budget. They stole from children." Harper looked away. Cole's voice was low. "Do not do that." "What?" "Look away." Her eyes burned. "I should have found it sooner. You found it alive. That does not feel like enough." "No," he said. "It rarely does." The news shifted again. Federal agents entered Preston Hale's City Hall office. Cameras caught the councilman walking out 2 hours later, his face gray, his hands hidden beneath a folded coat. Reporters shouted questions. Hale kept his mouth shut, but panic had removed the polish from him. He looked smaller without the room protecting him. Harper watched with a strange emptiness. She had imagined exposure would feel like fire. Instead, it felt like opening a door and realizing the room behind it was full of bodies. Theo spoke from the laptop. "Briggs is moving." Cole turned. "Where private accounts started shifting funds 20 minutes ago. He has a boat registered under a holding company, docked south of the city near an old marina. Flight plans are too visible. Water is quieter." Blake looked at Cole. "I can send a team." Harper stood. "No." Every man in the room looked at her. She hated how weak she still felt. Bruised, bandaged, dizzy if she turned too quickly, but her voice did not shake. "No disappearing him into one of your rooms. No body in the harbor. No lesson delivered in blood." Cole held her gaze. "You think I need the instruction?" "Yes." The room went quiet enough for the rain against the windows to return. Cole said nothing for a moment. Then to Blake, "He stays breathing." Blake nodded once. Harper looked at Cole. "Thank you." He stepped closer. "Do not thank me for choosing your line over mine. Just remember I did. That was not romance. Not the soft kind. It was something more dangerous. A man like Cole offering restraint the way other men offered flowers. Harper should have been afraid of how much it meant. She was. Cole left 20 minutes later with Miles and Blake. Harper hated staying behind. Cole hated that she wanted to go. They solved it badly, which was to say he told her no. She argued. He pointed out that she had a concussion. She called him controlling. He agreed, and then he left 2 men outside the apartment door. Before he walked out, she caught his sleeve. "Do not make me regret trusting you." Cole looked down at her hand, then at her. "I would rather be shot." He left before she could decide whether that was a promise or a confession. The marina was nearly empty when Cole arrived. Rain moved across the water in silver sheets. Old boats knocked softly against their slips. The air smelled of diesel salt and rotting wood. Warren Briggs stood near the end of the dock with a duffel bag in one hand and a phone pressed to his ear. He wore a navy coat over clothes too expensive for a man pretending not to flee. When he saw Cole, his face collapsed. He ended the call. "Maddox." Cole walked toward him without hurry. Briggs looked past him to Miles and Blake. "This is unnecessary." Cole kept walking. "The men you sent to my apartment disagree." Briggs lifted one hand. "I did not send anyone to your apartment." Cole stopped a few feet away. Briggs was sweating despite the cold. "I swear to God I made a payment. That is all. I was told it was for containment." Cole's eyes did not move. Containment. Briggs swallowed. I did not know it meant killing her. Did you ask silence? Rain struck the dock between them. Briggs gripped the duffel bag tighter. You have to understand, Pierce was losing control. Hale was panicking. Knox wanted distance. Everyone was covering themselves. Where is Pierce in this? Briggs laughed once, high and frightened. You think Caroline Pierce is some innocent reformer. She knew. She always knew. She let Hale feed because Hale kept the committees friendly. She let me move money because Harbor Line kept projects quiet. She let Knox take his piece because no construction moves in this city without his blessing. Cole stepped closer. Briggs backed up until his heel touched the dock edge. She ordered the crash, I do not know. Cole said nothing. Briggs broke. I do not know, but the payment came through a fund tied to her people. The motorcycle rental company belonged to a cousin of one of Knox's men. Hale wanted her scared. Pierce wanted her delayed. Knox wanted to know who sent the leak. I do not know who made the final call. Miles moved behind Briggs and took the duffel bag from his hand. Briggs barely noticed. I have files, he said quickly. Insurance, recordings, transfers, messages. I kept everything. Cole's voice was soft. Of course you did. I can give you Pierce. You will give Harper Vale everything. Briggs stared at him. The reporter. The woman you tried to turn into a warning. I told you I did not know. Cole moved close enough that Briggs stopped breathing comfortably. You knew enough to run. Sirens sounded in the distance. Briggs looked toward the road, then back at Cole. You called the feds no. Cole's mouth held no smile. She did. For 1 second, Briggs looked more betrayed by procedure than by danger. Blake stepped forward and placed a flash drive taken from the duffel into an evidence bag. Cole turned away before the first federal vehicle entered the marina lot. Briggs shouted after him. You are burning down your own city for her. Cole stopped. The rain ran dark through his hair and along the collar of his coat. He turned his head just enough for Briggs to hear him. No. Men like you already burned it. She opened the windows. Back at the safe house, Harper watched Caroline Pierce's press conference begin. The deputy mayor stood outside City Hall beneath a line of microphones, face solemn cream coat buttoned to the throat. She looked wounded on behalf of the public. She looked furious in a way voters trusted. She looked exactly like a woman who had practiced survival until it became indistinguishable from leadership. The allegations published today are deeply disturbing, Caroline said. Baltimore deserves transparency, accountability, and a full investigation into every person who betrayed public trust. Harper stood in front of the television, arms folded carefully over her sore ribs. She is good, she whispered. Theo was still on the laptop. She is better than good. She is redirecting the blast. Caroline continued. For years, my office has pushed for stronger oversight and cleaner development practices. If individuals abused public funds, they must answer for it. Harper shook her head. She is making herself the hero. The apartment door opened. Cole entered, rain on his coat, his bandage faintly showing beneath a fresh shirt. Harper turned toward him too quickly and winced. He saw it. She saw him see it. Neither said anything. Briggs, she asked. Alive. And talking. Relief moved through her before she could hide it. Cole walked to the table and placed an evidence bag beside the laptop. His insurance files. Harper looked at the drive. On television, Caroline Pierce lifted her chin for the cameras. This city will not be held hostage by corruption or fear. Theo opened the first folder from Briggs's drive. Transfers, messages, encrypted chats, payment authorizations, names coded but traceable. Then a file labeled EV. Harper clicked it. A transaction appeared. 2 days before the crash. A payment from a nonprofit development fund tied to Caroline Pierce's former campaign treasurer. routed through 2 accounts. Final recipient, a rental company connected to the motorcycle used on Eastern Avenue. The room went silent. Harper looked at the television. Caroline Pierce stood in front of the city and sold grief-like policy. Cole came to stand beside Harper. She paid for the bike, Harper said. Yes. Her voice turned thin. She stood in that library and looked me in the face. Yes. She told me she was trying to help me. Cole's eyes were on the screen. She was trying to use you. Harper felt something inside her go very still. Not numb. Focused. The same feeling she had known years ago when a source finally said the name everyone else had avoided. The moment fear stopped being weather and became evidence, Caroline Pierce continued speaking. We must let investigators do their work before rushing to judgment. Harper reached for the laptop. Cole watched her. What are you doing? Her fingers moved over the keys, giving her the judgment she bought. Theo leaned closer to his camera. Harper, the payment route is strong, but we need to verify the middle account before publication. Then verify it. Cole sat beside her. His wound had started bleeding through the bandage again, but he did not mention it. Harper saw anyway. After this, you are getting stitches. After this, you are sleeping. Neither of us is good at taking orders. No, Cole said. But we are learning which ones matter. For the next 5 hours, the safe house became quieter than it had been during the attack. There was no shouting, no gunfire, no broken glass. Only work. Theo traced the payment route from Briggs's files. Nia came back to authenticate metadata. Ellen joined by secure call, her face grim and bright with the terrible energy of a journalist holding dynamite. Harper wrote the second story with less fear than the first. This one was narrower, sharper. Caroline Pierce had not merely failed to notice corruption. She had moved around it, benefited from it, and when threatened by exposure, money tied to her circle had funded the vehicle used to terrorize the reporter investigating it. Every sentence had to be exact. Every claim had to hold. Cole read over her shoulder but did not edit this one much. He seemed to understand without being told that this blade belonged to her. When Harper hesitated over one line, he spoke quietly. Do not soften it because she looked you in the eye. Harper stared at the screen. I am not. You are. She deleted the line and rewrote it. Deputy Mayor Pierce denied involvement in threats against this reporter. Financial records obtained after publication of the initial investigation show a payment route connecting a political nonprofit tied to Pierce's former campaign treasurer to the rental company that provided the motorcycle involved in the crash on Eastern Avenue. Ellen read it and said, That holds. Theo said, Middle account verified. Nia said metadata supports the timing. Cole said nothing. Harper sent it. This time, the thunder came faster. By evening, Caroline Pierce's press conference had become evidence against her. Clips replayed beside the new headline. Her words about accountability were cut against the payment trail. Her face so composed at noon looked different by 6. Not guilty yet. Not convicted. But exposed. Harper stood in the living room while the city turned on another of its careful faces. A reporter announced that federal agents had entered Caroline Pierce's home. Another said her office had refused further comment. Another said sources inside City Hall described panic shouting and staff carrying boxes into conference rooms. Then Caroline appeared briefly on screen, stepping from a black car surrounded by attorneys. For the first time, she did not look like she owned the room. Harper watched until the image changed. Cole stood beside her. You did it. Harper shook her head. No, not all of it. His gaze moved to her profile. No. She looked at the city beyond the glass. Hale is caught. Briggs is talking. Pierce is exposed. Knox is still standing. Cole's face went still at the name. Knox is different. So are you. He turned toward her. The space between them felt charged now not only with attraction, but with everything they had seen each other become. She had watched him bleed and choose restraint. He had watched her shake and press send anyway. Harper faced him fully. I need to know something. Cole waited. When this reaches Knox, when he decides I am more than an inconvenience. What happens? His answer came without hesitation. He learns where the boundary is, and if he crosses it, Cole's eyes darkened. Then he learns why men stopped crossing mine. The old Harper might have stepped back. This Harper did not. She moved closer, close enough to see the exhaustion under his eyes, the tension around his mouth, the red beginning to show through his shirt again. I am not asking you to become harmless, she said. Good. I would fail. I am asking you not to become a monster in my name. That reached him. She saw it land. For a long moment, Cole Maddox said nothing. The television murmured behind them. Rain touched the windows. Baltimore held its breath outside. Then he said, That may be the hardest thing anyone has ever asked me. Harper's voice softened. Can you do it? His eyes held hers. For you, I can try. It was not enough. It was more than she expected. She looked down at the blood on his shirt. Now stitches. He almost smiled. You are relentless. I learned from dangerous people. Cole reached out and brushed his thumb lightly beneath the uninjured side of her jaw. The touch was brief, careful, a question more than a claim. Harper did not move away. For one breath, the whole city narrowed to the space between them. Then Cole's phone rang. He looked at the screen. Miles, Cole answered. His expression changed before he spoke. Harper's body knew before her mind did. What Cole lowered the phone. His eyes went to the television where Caroline Pierce's house was still surrounded by federal agents. Miles found something in Briggs's files. Harper waited. Cole's voice was quiet. A photograph. 15 years old. Pierce Knox and me outside a courthouse. The room shifted beneath her. Harper looked at him, but Cole was no longer watching the city. He was watching the past come through a door he had forgotten to lock. Harper did not reach for the phone. She looked at Cole instead. The photograph had not arrived yet, not in her hands, not on the table, but its shadow was already in the room. Cole had gone still in a way she had never seen before. Not controlled, not calculating. Still like a man who had heard a door open inside his own past and knew exactly which ghost had stepped through. Outside the windows, Baltimore glowed under the rain. The city had spent the day tearing itself open. Preston Hale in handcuffs. Warren Briggs talking. Caroline Pierce exposed in front of every camera she had ever used to build herself into something untouchable. Harper should have felt relief. Instead, she felt the floor tilt beneath a different kind of danger. You knew her, she said. Cole did not answer. That was answer enough. Miles arrived 30 minutes later with the photograph sealed in a plastic sleeve. He placed it on the dining table and stepped back without a word. Even he seemed to understand the room had become too private for loyalty to enter. Harper picked it up. The picture was grainy, taken from across a street. 15 years old, maybe more. Caroline Pierce stood near the courthouse steps, younger, sharper, her hair pulled back. Raymond Knox stood beside her in a dark overcoat. And there, half turned from the camera, was Cole Maddox. Younger, leaner, eyes already old. Harper stared until the image stopped looking like evidence and began looking like betrayal. Tell me, she said. Cole stood near the window, one hand braced against the glass. His bandage was bleeding again beneath his shirt, but he did not seem to feel it. Caroline was not deputy mayor then. She was counsel for a housing nonprofit with political connections. Knox was trying to move money through redevelopment projects near the harbor. I was younger, ambitious, and stupid enough to believe I could use men like Knox without becoming useful to them. Harper's voice stayed quiet. And Caroline. She made the paperwork clean. The words landed hard. Harper looked back at the photograph. You helped build the road they used. Cole turned then. Yes. No defense. No careful phrasing. No attempt to make the truth softer than it was. Harper hated him a little for that. She hated him more for making honesty hurt worse than a lie. Did you know about the stolen safety funds? No. But you knew the machine existed. I knew pieces of it. Freight, labor permits, shell companies. At the time, it looked like money moving through development deals. Dirty, but not unusual. Dirty, but acceptable. His jaw tightened. In my world, acceptable is not a moral word. It is in mine. The room went silent. On the television, a news anchor spoke without sound. Caroline Pierce's face appeared beside the words under federal investigation. Harper watched the image flicker and felt no victory in it. Cole crossed the room slowly. He stopped on the other side of the table, leaving the photograph between them. I should have told you when her name first appeared. Yes. I did not, because I did not know how much of the past was still attached to the present. No, Harper said. You did not tell me because you were afraid I would look at you differently. That struck him. For the first time since she had known him, Cole Maddox looked unable to answer fast enough to protect himself. Harper stood. Pain still moved through her ribs, but it no longer owned the room. I called you because I trusted that you would not lie to me. I did not lie. You chose silence where the truth belonged. You of all people know that is just a cleaner suit on the same sin. His eyes darkened, but not with anger. With recognition. She walked past him toward the bedroom. Harper. She stopped, but did not turn. I have spent my life being honest about ugly things because lies make people weak. That does not mean I am good at confessing the things that shame me. Her hand tightened on the doorframe. That sounds almost human. It was meant to. She closed the bedroom door between them. For the first time in days, Cole did not follow. Harper sat on the edge of the bed and tried to breathe through the ache inside her chest. Not heartbreak. Not exactly. Something more complicated. She had known Cole was dangerous. She had known his hands were not clean. She had known men did not become kings in the dark by accident. But knowing the shape of a shadow was different from finding your own name written inside it. Her phone rang. June. Harper answered before the second ring. Are you alive? Harper closed her eyes. Yes. That took too long. I know. June exhaled shakily. Behind her, Harper could hear airport noise. Why do I hear announcements? Because I am at the airport. June. No. You do not get to say my name like that. Your city is on every channel. Your apartment was destroyed. Some old man in a suit has been sitting outside my building for 2 days, pretending to read the same newspaper, and I just watched a deputy mayor get searched by federal agents. I am coming. Harper almost cried, not because she wanted June there, because she did not, because danger had already reached too far. You should stay in Denver. You should have become a dentist. We all make disappointing choices. A laugh broke out of Harper, small and wet. Then June's voice softened. And him, Cole Maddox. Harper looked toward the closed door. I do not know. Did he save you? Yes. Did he hurt you? Harper was quiet for too long. June understood the silence the way sisters do. Oh, Harper. He has a past with them. Of course he does. Men like that are never standing near the fire by coincidence. Harper wiped at her face with the heel of her hand. I trusted him. Maybe you still can. Maybe you cannot. But do not confuse being protected with being known. After the call ended, Harper stayed in the bedroom until the sky outside had turned black. She expected anger to keep her awake. Instead, exhaustion took her in pieces. When she opened the door again, Cole was in the living room. He had changed his shirt. The bandage beneath it was fresh. A glass of whiskey sat untouched on the table. The photograph lay beside it. He looked up. "I called Ellen." Harper stilled. "You what?" "Not to stop anything. To give her permission to use my name where the evidence supports it." She stared at him. Cole continued. "The old redevelopment files, the shell company records, my connection to Knox and Caroline. If it belongs in the story, it belongs there." Harper's voice was careful. "You know what that could cost you?" "Yes. Your businesses. Some. Your alliances. Many. Your life." A faint, humorless smile touched his mouth. "That has been at risk for some time." She stepped closer. Why? Cole looked at the photograph. "Because you were right." Silence was a cleaner suit on the same sin. Harper wanted to stay angry. Part of her did. But another part, the part that had been watching him closely since the hospital, heard the cost inside his voice. He was not making a grand gesture. He was cutting into his own armor because she had shown him where it had rotted. "That does not fix it," she said. "No, it does not make you good. I know. It does not mean I forgive you. I know that too." The honesty between them hurt, but it held. A knock sounded at the door. Blake entered after Cole approved it from the security panel. His expression was grim. Knox sent word. Cole did not move. "What word?" "He says Miss Vale is a journalist, and journalists should be careful when writing history they do not understand." Harper felt the threat settle against her skin. Cole's face became very calm. And Blake glanced at Harper, then back to Cole. "He wants a meeting." "No," Harper said. Both men looked at her. She crossed her arms carefully over her bruised ribs. "No private restaurant. No dock. No room full of men pretending murder is business. If Knox wants to speak, he speaks where I can hear him." Cole studied her. "Harper, you told me the truth belongs where the evidence puts it." "I am evidence now." Blake looked as if he would rather step in front of traffic than comment. Cole's eyes held hers. "You are not coming near Raymond Knox. Then you are not going either. That is not how this works. It is now." The silence that followed had teeth. Then impossibly Cole smiled. Not the predator's smile. Not the one men feared. Something smaller. Almost proud. "You are very difficult to protect. I was easy to protect when I was hiding. You met me after I stopped." The meeting happened at dawn in an old restaurant near Little Italy that had not opened to the public in years. Harper sat beside Cole at a table near the front window. Blake stood near the back. Miles waited outside. Raymond Knox arrived with 2 men and no visible hurry. He was older than Harper expected, silver-haired, neatly dressed, with eyes that seemed to belong to a colder century. He looked at Harper first, then at Cole. "So this is the woman who turned your judgment sentimental," Harper answered before Cole could. "No, I am the woman who made your friends careless." Knox's eyes sharpened. Cole leaned back slightly, watching her with something unreadable in his face. Knox sat. "You published what you did not understand. I published what I could prove. Proof is a small thing. Power decides what survives it." Harper reached into her bag and placed a recorder on the table. "Then say that again clearly." One of Knox's men shifted. Cole did not move, but the room changed around his stillness. Knox smiled faintly. "You have chosen an inconvenient woman." Cole's voice was quiet. "No. I recognized one." For a moment, old power and new defiance stared at each other across white tablecloths and cold coffee cups. Then Harper slid a folder toward Knox. Inside were copies of the files linking his attorney to Caroline Pierce, his companies to Harbor Line Money, and his network to the motorcycle rental route. Not everything. Enough. If anything happens to me, my sister Ellen Marsh, or anyone tied to this investigation, the rest goes public through 3 outlets and 1 federal office. If nothing happens, the story continues on evidence, not revenge. Knox looked at the folder, then at Cole. You let her speak for you. Cole's gaze did not leave Harper. No. I am listening. That answer changed something. Knox stood first. This city eats brave people. Harper looked up at him. Only when everyone else looks away. Knox left without another word. No peace was made. But a line had been drawn in public enough for every dangerous man in Baltimore to feel it. Later, back at the safe house, Harper stood on the balcony wrapped in Cole's coat. The rain had stopped. The harbor looked almost clean beneath the early light. Cole came to stand beside her. You should be inside. You always say that when you do not know what else to say. I know many things to say. Most would make this worse. She looked at him then. He looked tired, wounded, honest in a way that did not ask to be admired. I do not know what to do with you, she said. Cole's gaze dropped to her mouth, then returned to her eyes. That makes 2 of us. I cannot be another excuse for your violence. You will not be. You cannot own every room I enter. I can try not to. That is not romantic. It is honest. She smiled despite herself. The distance between them closed slowly, not like surrender, not like forgiveness, but like 2 people stepping carefully over broken glass, because something on the other side was still worth reaching. When Cole kissed her, he did it as if asking a question with every breath. Harper answered by gripping the front of his shirt and pulling him closer. The kiss tasted like coffee rain, and all the things neither of them was ready to promise. When they parted, his forehead rested lightly against hers. This will make your life harder, he said. Harper let out a quiet laugh. My life was simpler when I was lying to myself. A week later, Harper returned to her apartment. The door had a new lock. The broken glass was gone. Her books were stacked in boxes. The message on the wall had been painted over, but she could still feel it there beneath the fresh coat. Cole stood in the doorway, giving her space. For once, he did not tell her what to do. Harper walked to the window and touched the repaired frame holding the photo of her and June. Then she saw the envelope on the floor. Plain brown. No return address. Her body went cold. Cole was beside her before she bent down. She opened it. Inside was another photograph. Not old this time. New. Taken through the safe house windows. Harper and Cole standing on the balcony together. On the back, written in black ink, were 6 words. You are asking the wrong questions. Harper looked at Cole. His face had gone still again. Not with guilt this time, with recognition. She held the photograph between them. Then, tell me the right ones. Cole stared at the city beyond her window where sirens rose faintly and Baltimore kept pretending morning meant mercy. Then he looked back at her. Start with who knew where we were.